All right, what's up? How are you guys doing? Friday, game week. We play in 2 days. Usually do these on Friday, and we're playing like the next day. So a little bit different here. Hey, if you guys could, in the comments, let me know. Does it sound like my mic's plugged in? Because last night I was having some trouble with the stream. It was kind of sounding like my mic wasn't plugged in, and people were just hearing it through the computer. So I want to make sure that we sound good today. But hopefully you guys enjoyed what we saw last night, and that was certainly fun. Thank you, Bobby. Sounds like the mic is plugged in. It's a pretty stark difference. So, like, if you can't tell, like, I don't know what to tell you. Thank you, Rob. Listen, are you guys heading to Orlando? Listen, Harlan's not here today. So I'm flying like completely solo. My man took the whole week off, and then he's heading down to Orlando early, leaving me on an island stranded. No, Harlan's the best. But when are you guys heading to Orlando? When are you guys getting down there or up there, down there? Where I guess it depends on where you're coming from. We're just gonna have some fun today. Today is about having fun. I think that's all that we can really ask for too. I think that we want to have some fun. We want to enjoy the show today. We're going to talk a little bit about a little bit about conference realignment, Cal, Stanford, SMU jumping in. We are going to talk about UF looking hilariously embarrassing against Utah. I can take callers. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I can take callers if people want to come on and chat. Obviously, you can chat in the comments. Super chat works great. Venmo, PayPal if you want to support the show. Get some big time recruits coming to the game this weekend. What else do we want to talk about? UF. Oh, and the LSU game. I feel like we've talked about that so much. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on the LSU game. I'm almost out of thoughts. I don't really know what else to say. Brian Kelly making some comments. I just tweeted that. Brian Kelly talking about how they're going to beat the heck out of us. What do you say? We're gonna go out there and destroy. I don't know what the words were, but I've already forgot. I listened to it like 16 times making an edit, but here we are. Man, that UF game last night. That was something. All right, let me get some B-roll up here so you guys don't just have to look at me the whole time. But that UF game, man, I know this is such an easy comparison to make, but I guess I'm going to make it. I guess this is what we're going to do today. The Willie Taggart vibes that people talk about, and I know that that's just such an easy comparison to make, but they are truly like stark right now. And it is crazy to see. I know you guys follow me on Twitter. I know you guys have already seen this. I'm not trying to like bore you with stuff that you've already read, but for the folks that don't, both coaches followed teams who quit on their last teams, right? We all think that about Jimbo, and they think that about Mullen. They quit recruiting, kind of gave up on the program, whatever. A little bit different, because Jimbo wasn't fired and Mullen was, but whatever. Fans continue to blame the old coach, right? We did that. We know what Florida's going through because we did that for years. Oh, it's not really Taggart's fault. It's more Jimbo's fault, which I do think Jimbo deserved blame. I'm not trying to get around that by any means, but we blamed the old coach for a while, right? We did that when Norvell got here. We blamed Taggart and gave a little bit, we were assigning percentages of blame. I remember doing that with Newberg. So UF fans are still doing that with Mullen. They haven't completely switched the blame over to Napier. It's easier to cope with everything that's going wrong if you just blame the old coach. Man, did that game last night not feel like the Virginia Tech game? Florida outgained Utah by like 100 yards. I don't know if you guys remember, but 2018 against Virginia Tech, Florida State did the same thing. They outgained Virginia Tech in a game they lost by 3 touchdowns. very eerily similar. Lack of organization, insane. Penalties, putting two guys on the field with the same number. That is huge Willie Taggart vibes. The awful play calling. What was that 4th and 3 they ran where they tried to pitch it to the guy at the goal line? They faked a handoff, pitched to the guy, right up through the middle. I mean, they've got as much as we troll them for saying they have two of the better backs in the country, I mean, they've got Travis and ETN and Monroe. I just don't understand why you wouldn't try and use those guys. Pearsall was a weapon last night. Just throw the guy a 3-yard pass. So anyway, bad play calling, horrible special teams. How many times did they field a punt within the 5-yard line? Again, the two guys wearing the number 3, absolutely crucial on special teams. They were awful on kick return decisions. Missed a 30-yard field goal early in the game that kind of felt like a backbreaker. Just couldn't finish in the red zone. Again, that's what Florida State did against Virginia Tech. They could drive the ball over and over and over and over again. They just couldn't finish when they got into the red zone. Very similar there. Shout out Matt Baker, found this 6-8 in their first 14 games, both of them. That's pretty crazy. Remember how much hype there was for UF after that Utah game last year? And then to look at where they are now, right? 5-8 since then. Those 5 wins against USF was one of them. They snuck by Missouri. They beat South Carolina. Just they beat somebody else really bad at the end of last year before they played us. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They lost to Vandy. So I don't even know who the other ones were, but not good. Not good things. And then no wins against rivals. And really, when you look at it this year, I don't know which of UF's rivals, and I've kind of not been looking at the chat, so if you guys have been super chatting or anything, I'll catch up to it in just a minute. If you haven't, as Jalen says, what have you guys been doing? But when you look at their rivals this year, which of their rivals are they most likely to beat? Right? I guess that'd be the question. Which rival would you put the most money on UF beating? Well, and I'm not even disparaging Florida State at this time. We all know it's not Georgia, right? We all know that, probably nobody's beating Georgia in the regular season, but we all know it's not UGA. I don't think they can beat LSU. We'll see what LSU looks like this week. I don't think they can beat Florida State. If things go way off the tracks and Florida State has some massive injuries or just whatever, I guess I could see that. But I don't see them beating us. I certainly don't. Tennessee maybe is the most likely. You just have to hope that Joe Milton's terrible and that Florida plays like their absolute best game. They consider Kentucky a rival. I guess that's one they could win. But I don't see them beating any of those teams. Tennessee's, again, probably the most likely. If I had to pick one, I'd say Tennessee's the game they have the best chance in. But Tennessee's a lot better than Utah, guys. Utah didn't even look like a good team. What did Utah do well last night? Well, they had the long pass at the beginning, so they took advantage of a bad UF play in the secondary. Utah scored on a short field after the interception. I didn't think Utah looked all that good. Now, they looked a lot better than Florida, but I'm thinking that Tennessee is a lot better than Utah is. I don't know. I think they're in trouble. I think they're in a lot of trouble. I saw an article from Corey Bender does a great job with the Gators Online site, the On3 Gators site, and he spoke with some of the recruits. Some of those recruits were saying wow, I didn't expect that, or man, that really threw me for a loop. You have to go back in and work on Monday and try and start to get better. I think recruits, Gator fans said, oh, we'll hold on to our class. We'll do this. We'll do that. We're fine. Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to see here, right? Like the little dog drinking the coffee. Nothing to see here. That sounds good. And you can say oh man, we got nothing to worry about. These guys committed to a team that won 6 games last year. They know what they're getting into. But let me tell you something. That is true. There's an ounce of truth to that. The problem is, those kids were expecting you to get better this year. And if they don't see you get better, Florida goes out and wins 5 games. right? And you get worse. That's trouble. Florida fans thought we were trolling when we said, like, oh, well, they lost a top 5 pick to the draft in Anthony Richardson. Oh, well, they lost, what they have, like 6 or 7 guys go to the NFL? The offensive line looked terrible last night, by the way. But they lost an All-American in the offensive line. They lost, a pretty good defensive lineman. Like, they lost some real talent to the NFL, secondary guys. They thought we were trolling and like, oh, those guys aren't going to make a difference. No, those guys made a difference. Utah was down to their 3rd-string quarterback. They had their number 1 tight end out who had 100 yards and a touchdown against UF last year. Their first play of the game on defense, first quarter, it wasn't the first play. First quarter, they lost their best defensive player. They lost another guy on the offensive line as time went on. They didn't start their best linebacker. They were down like 8 guys. And UF looked slow. They didn't look like they were close to matching Utah in speed, in strength, in size. It was not close. And I don't even think Utah looked that good. They got the win, not trying to take anything away from Utah, but I didn't even think they looked that good. I thought it was really just UF just looked terrible. Honestly, I thought UF looked a lot better the second half, but it was so Taggart-esque. It was so like, man, we are outgaining them. We're doing better in a lot of areas, but we just can't find a way to score at the end. We can't find a way to get in. That Douglas touchdown was great. He certainly mossed that guy, but man, even their fans couldn't get excited for that. So anyway, UF in a world of trouble. When you look at their schedule, we'll wrap up on the UF talk with this, but when you look at their schedule, if Harlan was here, I would have him put it up on screen, but again, he took off, so he's dead to me. They beat McNeese State. I think they lose to Tennessee. They beat Charlotte. I think they lose at Kentucky. Let's say they beat Vanderbilt. There's their 3rd win. I don't see them beating South Carolina. I don't see them beating Georgia. I think KJ is going to go off on them, in the Arkansas game. They're not beating LSU. They're not beating us. Maybe they beat Missouri. That's 4 wins. If they can luck up against Kentucky or Arkansas, there's 5 wins. If they beat both those teams, that's 6 wins. But I'm not projecting them to beat Arkansas at this point. I'm probably not projecting them to beat Kentucky at this point. Again, maybe Missouri is a team they could beat. McNeese, Missouri, Charlotte, Vandy, and maybe one more. I don't know. Utah is a very well-coached team, but Florida has so much more talent that it's not even funny. Just really insane that they dropped that game last night. And the way they dropped it, right? Nobody would have been shocked that Utah beat them, but the way they lost that game, man. A 3rd-string quarterback. The other quarterback that was in there, the scrappy kid, I forget his name, whatever. The backup that the 4th-string quarterback that came in and was playing, Nate Johnson, I don't know. He fumbled the ball like 3 or 4 times. It was just Florida dropped a couple interceptions because he wasn't good at all, and they still couldn't take advantage. Utah had terrible clock management. What were they doing? Trying to pass the ball on 2nd down without taking any time off the clock, kicking a 50-some yard field goal when it was going to keep it a 2-score game. I didn't even think Utah was very good. I just think UF stinks. They are in a world of trouble. And, I've long said that I thought that they could hold their class together. I don't think they can. I think that thing's going to fall apart. Now, I don't think it falls apart and they end up in the 30s, but I think they got some guys decommitting. I think they've definitely got some guys they're going to be looking around, shopping around, and trying to get out of there. So, all right. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Let me go on a little UF rant to start this thing. Florida State 2 days away from taking on LSU. I didn't write an outline. I didn't write a script. I didn't write anything. I knew that in my mind I wanted to talk about Utah. I knew that I want to talk about FSU, LSU. I know that I want to talk about conference realignment, and then we'll let you guys kind of do the rest of this. But I didn't write a script. I didn't write an outline. I just kind of figured I'd come and hang out with you guys for an hour, which seems like a lot of fun. I like you guys, and so hopefully you like me enough to hang around and keep talking, and we'll go from there. So Let's give a little bit of love to Garnet and Gold. Listen, if you haven't ordered from Garnet and Gold yet, it's probably too late, but you can have your order ready to go for the home opener. GarnetandGold.com. Use code NOSLAW, NOSLAW, to get 15% off of your order. If you're going to the home opener next week, do in-store pickup. You can pick it up right there. You save on shipping. Get 15% off with the code NOSLAW, NOSLAW. You should not be ordering from anywhere else. Appreciate Garnet and Gold for all that they do. Love those folks and their support of FSU and its student athletes. All right, let's go back to the comments. Listen, somebody go take Brad's spot down there. Somebody go hit that super chat and get Brad off the board. Brad's just sitting there resting on his old donations and not showing any love now. So the Venmo, PayPal options are open, and they certainly do help out more because YouTube takes less of YouTube takes none of that when you do those. So, all right, what else do you guys want to talk about? Which direction do we go next? Do we talk about LSU? I feel like I've talked about LSU so much, and give me half a second. I'm going to plug my phone in. But I do feel like we've talked about LSU so much that I don't even know. I feel like you guys are probably tired of hearing about LSU at this point. But we can talk LSU. We can talk conference realignment. This is very professional that I'm about to do this real quick, but I'll be right back. All right, thanks for waiting for me. I had to plug my phone in. We probably just lost 100 viewers there. But if somebody Venmos or PayPal, I'm on like 1%, so I got to be able to see it. Fired Dan Mullen for Billy. Mullen had 21 wins in 2 years. Yeah, it's a crap show, man. All right, I'm done with the UF stuff. Okay, listen, I really would love to have a repeat of last night tonight with the real Miami taking on Miami, Ohio. I don't know that happens. I was kind of hoping, I mean, you never want somebody to be injured, but maybe if Van Dyke didn't play, maybe Miami of Ohio would have a chance. But I do think Miami's going to be a little bit better. Now, I'd love to be proven wrong on this. And when I say a little bit better, I think that Miami's probably like 7-5 this year. I ain't got them. So maybe 2 wins better. But I sure wish we were getting a repeat of that because last night, listen, if you're not part of the Discord, I know the Twitter timeline kind of goes crazy, but with refreshing and everything, you guys need to be in that Discord because insane the conversation. Shout out the Animal House as always, but the conversation in there was nuts. So, all right, yeah, let's do conference realignment stuff. The ACC voted this morning to add Cal, Stanford, and SMU to the league next year, happening in 2024. Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina were no votes. North Carolina State flipped and voted yes for the expansion. I've got some thoughts on this. We did a conference realignment video yesterday, and I even said in that I think that'll be our last conference realignment video until an announcement is made, which I'll go back on record. I think that is happening fairly soon. Now, soon is a very subjective word. Soon could mean 2 weeks or soon could mean 2 months, but that's still soon within the scope of things. I would anticipate that an announcement happens before the end of the season. So like if we get to Thanksgiving week and an announcement still hasn't happened, I'll actually be a little bit surprised. So that would be kind of my projection, kind of my timeline. I don't have any inside information that's saying like, hey, by the way, an announcement is definitely happening on this day or that day, or, you know, we're definitely going to hear something by here, there, or wherever. That's just my lean. That's my vibe. That, you know, in talking with some people, I think that something happens within anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. There is a board of trustees meeting that is taking place next Friday. We live streamed that last time. We had like 1,000 people watching it live with us, which was fun. So we'll probably do that again next Friday for the board of trustees meeting. Remember, they were like talking about stuff like the nursing program and everything else, and you guys were restless while that was all going on. But there is a board of trustees meeting. We should get information before that if there's really anything that's going to go on in that or not. If it's literally just kind of a run-of-the-mill meeting, then we won't tune in for it. But we will stream that next Friday. Make sure you're subscribed because that was a ton of fun to watch that with you guys and kind of watch the meltdown freak out of you know, national college football media while that was going on. But you know, so every team in the ACC except for Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina voted for Cal and Stanford and SMU to be added. And there are questions around, well, why did this team vote? Why did that team vote? Why did this happen, that happen? And you know, there's a lot of questions around Miami. I I will take all the shots at Miami that can possibly be taken. And so this is not even really I don't even know that this is like TJ being like spinny or trolly or taking a shot. If you voted yes to add these teams to the conference, I believe it's because you know that you don't have a landing spot right now. Because if you had a way out, if you knew that you could get into another conference and that you would be better off going on, why would you vote to add them? They add no revenue. They add about $2 million in revenue per team, $2 to $3 million. They don't do anything for the conference. They make travel a nightmare and more logistical, more of a logistical nightmare. It's just, it's nuts. It is absolutely nuts. And I think it points to the fact that Miami doesn't have a landing spot. Florida State, Clemson, UNC, they're all trying to negotiate what's going to happen. They are all working towards, what will be their final destination. Shout out the movie. But I don't think Miami has a place to go. I don't think NC State has a place to go. I don't think Virginia and Virginia Tech have certain places to go. Now, they could end up in the Big 12 or maybe Virginia in the Big 10. Maybe. But I think that it's concerning if you're a Miami fan. As much as we troll, and this is not like, oh, TJ's making jokes or whatever. I think that if you're a Miami fan, it is concerning because if you had a place to land, if you had a place to go, why in the world would you be voting for this? Why in the world would this be your option? And the truth of the matter is it wouldn't be. You would be, I don't know. So if you're a Miami fan, you cannot feel super great about this. You cannot feel like this is a super great option for you. I think Miami's in a little bit of trouble. I think that, again, I just don't think they have a spot. I don't think they have a seat at the table. I don't think the SEC sees them as very valuable. I don't think that the Big Ten sees Miami as very valuable, at least now. Down the road, yes. And what makes Florida State more valuable than Florida State, Clemson, other teams more valuable than Miami now? The SEC or the Big Ten is going to have to eat some cost when these teams come due to the grant of rights and everything else. And the idea is you get what you pay for. So if you're the Big Ten and you have to overpay a little bit for Clemson, Florida State, other teams, you're okay with that because, again, you get what you pay for. I don't think that you're willing to pay extra for Miami. I don't think you're willing to, sell out for that. I don't think they're just not worth it. What I will say is I do think that a lot of this has been orchestrated, and I think that a lot of this is very much going to plan. I've spoken with multiple people this morning that still believe that everything that went down today is somewhat orchestrated and that this is ultimately still good for Florida State, Clemson, and others. I do trust Michael Alford with this. I do trust Florida State's administration. I trust their board of trustees. I think that a lot of this on its face may look bad for some of these teams. Adding Cal, Stanford, SMU, because we voted against it. But I think that, again, this is all orchestrated and it's all kind of playing out how FSU wants. If I'm wrong on that, you guys can Old Takes Exposed it. If we're still in this conference in 2026, then come find me, come get me. You guys know where I'm at. But I don't think that today came as a shock to anyone. I think that UNC clearly knew how this was going to go down, and that's why they had their Board of Trustees meeting, much like Florida State's. I mean, they're not certainly as bold as Florida State having theirs in the middle of the night and, hiding behind darkness. But without taking too many shots at UNC, at least they did the right thing. I think that was posturing, and I think that, long-term, Florida State, Clemson, UNC out of this conference sooner rather than later. Again, if I had to put a timeline on it, if I had to project, I'd say it's probably before the end of this regular season, Thanksgiving timeframe. If nothing has happened by Thanksgiving timeframe, I'll agree. I'm a little bit surprised. I will be a little bit surprised by that. I think that that's a good a good timeline to look at. So, hey, we are 25 minutes in, 0 super chats today. 0 love, 0 super chats. We're just, Harlan left me and all the supporters left me too. So I just needed to point that out. I know you guys are going to come through here in a clutch. What else do we want to talk about? We want to give Gramco some love. TheGramco.com. All the best in gummies, vapes, pre-rolls, whatever you're looking for. TheGramco.com. They will absolutely get you taken care of. Some of the best people to work with in the business. Florida State fans, they'll be out at the tailgate this weekend. Make sure that you have your tailgate tickets. There are not many left. If you're coming to Orlando, I don't know what you're waiting for, but you better get them before they're gone. Parking's already sold out. We've increased the number of tickets a little bit, but you guys need to go get your tailgate tickets if you haven't. But thegramco.com, TJ25. Again, they'll be out there on Sunday with us, hanging out at the tailgate. Appreciate them for all of their support. Okay, what else do we have? We're going to talk a little bit of LSU. Are you guys tired of talking about LSU, or is that still a thing that we want to do? You guys let me know in the comments. Or you guys, somebody want to call in? I guess I could put a link. I'll put a link in the description so that you guys can call in if you want to. Let's invite guests. Yeah, Notre Dame doesn't matter. And Florida State being bad 2 years ago doesn't matter, just for the people in the comments that think that that's somehow relevant to conference realignment. There's a link to call in there in the comments. If somebody wants to join and get a takeoff, that's totally fine. But LSU game. Hey, there's some concern or some worry around Maurice Smith. We dropped a note in our Discord today for our Patreon members. Sounds like Maurice Smith didn't practice yesterday. I've heard a little bit about that. And I'm not super concerned, but I did drop some notes in the Discord about kind of what's going down there. Trying to be super vague with you guys, but I would be pretty surprised if Smith doesn't play at this point. Now, if there are any kind of setbacks or anything like that, we'll see. But I think Florida State's going to go into this game rather healthy. We're 2 days away. We're still kind of waiting on a Darrell Jackson update. I have heard multiple things and honestly some conflicting things. I've heard some people express a little confidence. I've also heard some people express some doubt that anything would happen. So I don't necessarily know that y'all gotta not tweet or text like news in there, because I think I can't tell if you're projecting or if that's really going to happen on that Board of Trustees meeting or not. But yeah, I'm still somewhat hopeful. I actually think that there's a chance that Jackson's waiver gets overturned like through this year. Here's what I think is going to happen. All right. I just came up with this, by the way, so I haven't been working on this or pre-writing this out. But here's what I do think is going to happen. I think that the NCAA flips Jackson's waiver after we play Clemson. Now, I'm not saying like the week after or anything like that, but I think that just to be petty, they make sure that we've already played our 2 toughest games before they put Jackson back. Couldn't you see that happening? Couldn't you see that? Let's say Florida State drops one of those games, or God forbid, knock on wood. Let's say Florida State drops both those games. And then the NCAA reverses the waiver. Couldn't you just see it going down like that? Now, I'm not saying I see us losing both games. I think we win on Sunday. But wouldn't that be so NCAA? Hey, Florida State's 2-2. Let's go ahead and flip that waiver around and act like we did them a solid, because they got games against Syracuse and Virginia Tech and Wake Forest coming up. I'm not saying I think we go 2-2, but couldn't you just see that? Dang it. I probably shouldn't have voiced that, because Stan Wilcox is probably logged into this right now and probably going to do that now that I just said it. So when that happens, you guys can blame me. I kind of feel bad about saying it out loud now. So, okay, LSU. I feel like I've given my LSU takes like a million times, but I'll do it one more time. I think Florida State is just a little bit better than LSU at every position, with probably the exception of linebacker. I think that when you have Harold Perkins as your linebacker, you're probably you're probably going to be better than any other linebacking core out there. I love Deloach, Tatum, Lundy. I love those guys. But I do think that, look at William. All right, William just hooked us up here on the Super Chat. So let me play a little sound for William. William gets the, what's William get today? Let's do it big.
Put a smile on your face. Okay? Because Florida State, if we gonna do it then, we do it big then. Let's go, baby.
Shout out William.
Okay? Because Florida State, if we gonna do it then, we do it big then. Let's go, baby.
There we go. Harlan knows how to turn these things off. I don't know how to do it. So shout out William. William, if you're in here and you want to post a comment, I'll put you up. But appreciate you for the love, for the support. I'll get you down there on the bottom in a minute. Again, a one-man show today, so it might be a little slow, but I will get you in there eventually. I think Florida State's a little bit better than LSU at every position. Quarterback, I think Jaden Daniels is really good. I think that Jordan Travis is better. I don't think I'm breaking any news with that. I don't think that anybody's shocked by that. I think most people out there would agree that Jordan Travis is probably a little bit better. I don't know. You guys disagree with that? You guys think I'm wrong? I think Florida State's got a little bit better rushing attack. I think Trey Benson, Pro Football Focus has Trey Benson as their RB1 right now. I think that Florida State's rushing attack is a little bit better. I think that LSU has great weapons. I think they have a really good receiving and tight end core. I think that I still like Florida State's receiving core better. I like Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Jaheim Bell, Kyle Morlock as a starter, Destin Hill, Winston Wright. I like that group a little bit better. Offensive line, maybe I'll give LSU a slight tip on the offensive line. Only from a star talent perspective. I think Florida State's offensive line is deeper and more experienced. I know they're more experienced. Florida State has the most snaps ever as an offensive line that we've ever seen. Like any football team ever. And so, I like offensive line for Florida State. Defensive line, I think, is better. I think when you think about the fact that Mason Smith is out, not celebrating that, just think it's important. Think it's a factor. I think defensive line, Florida State's better. Jared Verse, Fabian Lovett, Braden Fisk, Josh Farmer. I'm hearing great things on Turner. Pat Payton, Gilbert Edmond, a guy that LSU desperately wanted. Linebacker, I do think that LSU probably has you at linebacker. Very comfortable to say that. I still like our linebackers. I like Tatum. I like DJ. Kalen's great, but I think they got you at linebacker. Secondary, so people talking about our secondary. I think that our cornerbacks are better than theirs. All their cornerback. We had Blake Ruffino on last night, and he said that was his biggest area of concern for the entire team. I like our cornerbacks better. Now, Green and Jones have taken huge leaps, and Cypress is new, so they got to go out and prove it. They got to go out and show it. But I still like our cornerbacks better. Azariah Thomas, I like a lot. I think we're in good shape there. Safety, maybe a slight concern for us. I like Dent and Brown. I like what we're hearing out of Barker. I like the young guys. Maybe they have to go out and prove it. But I like our secondary better. Specialists, Keon Coleman, punt returning. I've heard good things about the kickers here in fall camp. Again, kickers got to go out and prove it too. They've struggled at times in the past. Shout out my guy Fitz, though. Every position across the board, I like Florida State a little bit more. And so with that, I think Florida State wins the game. I think they win it, I wouldn't say comfortably, but kind of like last year, where you look up in the fourth quarter and they're up by 2 scores, but they don't blow it like last year. They've learned. They've grown. One thing about a Mike Norvell's coach team that they do a phenomenal job is they rebound. They learn from mistakes. You think about how they have always rebounded really well. I think they've always done a good job of rebounding from adversity, whether that be, game to game, week to week, quarter to quarter, whatever that situation is. I think they've done a good job of that. I've used this analogy before, but I don't think, I mean, they lost 3 games in a row last year, and everybody knows that. But I don't think that they let one loss turn into 2 loss, turn into 3 loss. They lost to Wake Forest. They came out and just got beat. And I think they were a lot better than NC State in that first half. So it wasn't a hangover. They didn't come out against NC State and get let down, 1 loss into 2 loss. Now, they did boneheaded things in the second half that cost them the game, but that wasn't a situation where the Wake Forest loss impacted the NC State loss. And then I thought they came out and they started really, really well against Clemson. They played a good first half against Clemson outside of like the last 4 minutes. So I don't think it was, oh, you had an NC State loss and you let that turn into a Clemson loss. I think that they were better there too. Now, you still lost those games, but I don't think that was a situation. I think they rebounded very well. And then after Clemson, all right, we got to get rid of this crayon guy. We're not taking, you could take shots about football, but like saying you're happy about hurricanes hitting people, man, like loss of life and all that other, that's just trash. All right. And that's why your fan base has the reputation of being trash. Shout out all the good Miami fans, because there are a lot of them, and we get a lot of them in here, but shout out T2Y and some of the other people that actually have a little bit more class. But yeah, we're cutting you, bro. We don't, we're not doing that. We don't, people die in hurricanes and stuff like that. Like, I'm not talking about like hurricane players that kill each other. I'm talking about people actually die in hurricanes. And so that's not cool to say you're happy a city got hit by a hurricane. That's classless. So you're out of here. So, all right. He totally threw me off there, but yeah, I like the Noles. I think it's a situation where they rebound, they respond. Sorry, I can't keep up with the comments today because, again, shout out to me for doing this solo. Harlan, just typical Harlan, leaving me on my own to go play golf. That's so him. He's probably watching right now. That's why I keep giving him a hard time. Harlan, hit that super chat since you left me by myself. I'm not splitting this one with you either. So I like the Noles. I think they'll rebound. I think they'll respond. I think they'll do a good job. I think they'll end up winning this game. I think they'll win it going away. I think that you'll look up at the score, and Florida State will be up by 7 or so in the fourth quarter. They find a way to take a 2-score lead and never look back. I think they win by 10. I've got 31-21 as my final. I mean, nothing would shock me. I'm not even saying that I don't think LSU could win this game. I think LSU is very capable of winning this game. I was on Bill King this week, and Bill asked me, if LSU wins, what went wrong for Florida State? And if Florida State wins, what went right for Florida State? And I said, listen, if LSU wins, nothing necessarily has to go wrong. You're playing a really good team. You're playing a top 5 team in the country. It's not necessarily that something went wrong if you lose this game. You might just get beat. LSU might just be a little bit better than you on Sunday. I don't think they're a better team in general. I don't think LSU pound for pound, if this game's played 10 times, I think Florida State wins 6 or 7. But LSU still wins 3, 4, maybe 5 times. Maybe it's a coin flip. So I don't think something has to go wrong. But what I was confident in and what went right is Florida State's going to take advantage of their secondary. Florida State is going to use those matchups on the outside. I don't know how any team in the country, including Georgia, bookmark that for later on in the year. I don't know how any team in the country guards Florida State. And so with that being the case, I think that Florida State, let me get William back up here for this one. I don't know how any team in the country guards them. And if Florida State wins, it's because they have gotten those favorable matchups on the outside. They have done a phenomenal job of scheming guys open, of Jordan checking into the right protection to stop against that nasty front 7 that LSU has. They've done a good job of exploiting mismatches, trying to get Destin Hill in the slot and Harold Perkins on him. Let's go with that. Let's go pound for pound, your best, our most athletic. Let's roll. That's what's gone right for Florida State. If Florida State wins this game, it's because their defense was as advertised. It's because the guys on the defensive line, Fabian Lovett, Jared Verse, Pat Payton, Braden Fisk, Josh Farmer, and others, it's because they stepped up and they made plays on 3rd and long. They've kept LSU behind the sticks. They've done a good job of making sure that LSU wasn't able to get comfortable and get into a rhythm. The linebackers have done a good job, whether that's Deloach spying or whatever the situation is on Daniels, but they've limited his legs. If Florida State wins this game, it's because their secondary is what we thought it was. Florida State's got a really good secondary on paper. We think Green's taking that step. We think Jarian Jones is taking that step. We believe that Fentrell Cypress is the best corner in the transfer portal from that Power 5 level. We believe that their secondary is better. We think that the young guys can step in and make a play. We think that Barker was a good take from JUCO. We think that Brown and Dent have taken another step forward. We think that Ryan Fitzgerald has done a good job of continuing to get better on his end. We think that Jordan Travis, Mike Norvell has said that he's the most improved player on the team. And so I've just listed every single position group. I understand that. But if Florida State's won this game, then everything we think about this team was true. Now, the inverse of that is, what if we're not able to block those guys up front? What if the wide receivers aren't as good as we think they are? What if our secondary hasn't taken that next step? Well, then, yeah, LSU's probably going to win. But if Florida State wins this game, it's because they've been able to take advantage of the matchups that they have, the advantages in the matchups they have against LSU. And I think they have advantages against LSU at just about every position grouping on the field. I'll tell you, if there was one place you wanted LSU to be better than you then, in one position group, it would probably be linebacker. And that's not to take anything away from Harold Perkins, but I don't want their corners to just be absolutely locked down, shut down guys. I don't want their wide receivers to be monsters like ours are. I don't want their quarterback to just be otherworldly. Florida State is able, if they win this game, they were able to take advantage of matchups. And I think that they will be able to. And that's why I like the Noles to win this by 10 or 14 points. Give me 31-21. I think the Noles, I think it's back and forth in the first half. I think it's a fun game. I think we're nervous. I think we're all sweating. I think if anybody at halftime that still has fingernails left, that's a disgusting habit, by the way, but you get the analogy. Anyone at halftime that still has fingernails left, what are you doing? If you haven't pulled all your hair out and you look like me, what are you doing? Because I think you're going to be nervous first half. I think there's a lot of anticipation. I think there's a lot of excitement. There may be some nerves. There may be some jitters for both sides. But ultimately, I think Florida State's better. I think they're deeper at a lot of positions. I think they have more talent at a lot of positions. And I think they end up winning the game. I think they win it kind of going away. Not a 21-point win. I think LSU's got a lot of heart, a lot of fight. They're pissed off about last year. But I think the Noles end up kind of going away. We'll see. That clip, the last 5 minutes of me ranting, is going to get shared on social media one way or the other on Monday morning. It's just whether or not we're sharing it or the LSU fans are sharing it. But that's how I see it shaking out. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't think that I'm a homer. I picked Clemson to win last year. I took Louisville to win last year. I think I'm pretty realistic with a lot of stuff. I had the team at 8-4 going into the season last year. I don't think that I'm some outrageous homer. Now, I want the Noles to do well and win, but that's how I see it shaking out. Whenever the national guys have been picking this game, though, they really have favored LSU a lot, and but they haven't talked about FSU's weapons at all. I will take that back. J.D. Piquel did of On 3, but he picked LSU. Pate picked LSU, and both those guys also picked Florida. So, it'll be all right. But I think people are missing that. I think people are missing what Florida State has from a talent perspective. And when they talk about talent, they are only talking about LSU with this. I think the other hidden factor that nobody's really considering, and then we'll move on from LSU with this right here, but is as good of a coach as people think Brian Kelly is. I'm not saying that he's not a good coach, but as good of a coach as people say that he is, I think Mike Norvell has, the last two times they've met, when there has been a massive talent disparity, Mike Norvell has come in and absolutely coached his guys up to the next level. You think about that Notre Dame game in 2021, Florida State should not have been in that game. And they weren't, right? They were down by 18 at one point. They weren't in that game for a little while. But Mike Norvell was able to coach his guys up and get them back into the game and force overtime. And really one of my favorite games I've ever been at that we didn't win. Because I love the fight. I love the way that we came back. I love the way that the guys rallied and played for each other. I think it was frustrating and it pissed me off to lose that game. But they really did honor Bobby in a good way that night. The way that they fought, the way that they got after it, I thought that was impressive. And the game shouldn't have been close. There was a reason that Notre Dame was a huge favorite coming into that game in Doak. And then you look at last year. Nobody thought FSU was going to be the 10-3 team they were last year. Nobody thought that was even a possibility. Nobody had any clue that that was going to go down like that. And for 2.5 quarters, first quarter was pretty even. For 2.5 quarters, Florida State dominated that game. We looked up in the fourth quarter with like 10 minutes to go, and LSU didn't have 100 yards rushing or 100 yards passing. Now, they had 180 yards on their last 2 drives where they went 75 yards and 99 yards. That made it look like they really did have a ton of yards. But Florida State was dominating that thing. The game wasn't close. If you watch that game, Florida State was doing whatever they wanted. LSU had one really, really good drive. They had one drive where Florida State was kind of in a prevent, and that was it. That's what made it look close. Florida State holds on to the ball at the end. Florida State doesn't fumble at the goal line. Florida State executes a little bit better. The Noles win that game by 14, and the season is maybe not thought of, maybe not looked at much differently because you're 10-3 anyway, but I think this matchup is looked at differently. Florida State going to the prevent late, playing back, Jaden Daniels making a couple of great plays, really made this seem like it was closer than it should have been last year. And it wasn't. The Noles dominated, and a lot of it had to do with Mike Norvell. Showing him on screen right now. Mike Norvell has done a phenomenal job of scheming things up when he has less talent. Well, this time around, he doesn't have less talent. I think Florida State is every bit as talented as this LSU team is. Maybe not from a star ranking perspective. Maybe LSU has recruited certainly better than Florida State has in recent memory. But they are every bit as talented as LSU is. When you look at the 2 deep, when you look at the guys that are going to be in and going to be playing on Sunday night, they're every bit as talented. What else do we have today? Do we have anything else? Listen, I don't know what you guys' plans are. If you're going to be in Orlando, let me know. We are doing a get-together. A get-together. Am I 80? I might be. We are doing, shout out the Great Value Water here. Pate does his chalice. I do Great Value Water. We are doing a get-together on Saturday night at Fuel and Swigs. Those are 2 bars down on Central in downtown Orlando, right across from the Corona Cigar, which you may wonder over there as well on Saturday night. But just get together, free entry. There are going to be drink specials if you're in FSU gear. Get together, watch some college football. Very low pressure, very, no requirement to show up. No, you don't need it's not a cover, no tickets. Just come hang out. Fuel and Swigs. Just kind of a little double fries. No salt. I've heard some former players are going to be there. I've heard some current softball players may show up. I've heard some current coaches of some different sports may be there. No football, but some former football players may show up. We're going to have a good time. Going to be a lot of fun. First few people there, maybe I'll buy a drink. Maybe first 10 people that come up and see me, I'll buy them a drink. How's that sound? Sounds like I'm about $120 poorer after I see 10 people on Saturday night. But come out and hang out with us. Okay, what do you guys got? We got 10 minutes left. We'll let you guys run this last 10 minutes. I talked about LSU. I talked about conference realignment. I talked about Florida. Quick talk about Miami. I think they win tonight. I don't think it's incredibly close, unfortunately. I'd love to be wrong on that. I'd love for Miami to lose, but I don't think they end up losing, unfortunately. I'd love to get old takes exposed on that, though. Please let me be wrong about that one. Somebody jump up there. William's only at $5. Our lone super chat of the day is $5. And so William is our leader there, but somebody jump up and beat him on that. I might go do it myself just to get my own name down there on the bottom. So if you guys appreciate the show, if you appreciate the content, go beat William out for that. What else you guys want to talk about? Okay, I'm not talking about Pitt this early in the year. They're a physical team. They're a well-coached team. That game will probably be cold in November. But yeah, Florida State shouldn't lose that. My guess, Big Ten or the SEC. I've always said SEC, and I think that is. I could see it going either way. I wouldn't say that I'm super confident one way or the other, but I've always said SEC. I just think that that's like the most likely destination. I think that is probably how it ends up. But, if it was the Big Ten, it wouldn't shock me. I think the Big Ten is doing their very best to get Florida State and Clemson. I think if the Big Ten gets FSU, Clemson, Notre Dame, they probably are, overall a better conference than the SEC. I think that is probably something that SEC fans would argue, but I think when you look at Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, Clemson, Florida State, man, that's pretty strong. So MVP of the game, I got to go Jordan Travis. I don't know how you would pick anybody else. I mean, I'd love for it to be something really unique like, Destin Hill or Greedy Vance because they're from there. Keon's from Louisiana, but I think it's Jordan. If Florida State's going to win this game, I think it is all on Jordan's back. He is the one who is the leader of this team. Defensively, give me Kalen DeLoach. I think that if he spies Jaden Daniels, that's going to be really, really an important aspect of this. So give me Kalen on defense. It's hard to pick against Jared Verse, but I'll go Kalen DeLoach. And wild card, I'll give you 3 MVPs. This is cheating, but 3 out of 85 is really not that bad when you think about it like that. Give me Jordan on offense. Give me Kalen on defense. And special teams MVP. You guys want that? I can't tell if you guys want that or not. Let me take a sip of water. Get some comments in here. See if that's something you guys want or not. Nobody commented that they want that, but you're going to get it anyway. I got Fitzgerald perfect on the night as a kicker. Redemption story lives on. If Fitzgerald kicks the game-winning kick, we will do or Kellner, any kicker. If we have a game-winning kick, I will do a video this week. Listen, y'all better tune in and watch it. But I will do a video that I don't think would do very well on YouTube. I just don't. YouTube wants like the sexy clickbaity. I know I'm good at that, but they want but if he hits a game-winning kick, I will do a full-on Ryan Fitzgerald or Kellner, whoever hits it, full-on video for them. Redemption story, 10-minute video, bragging on them. Maybe I'll get them on to talk or whatever, but, see if I can coordinate that. But we will do a kicker video here on the YouTube channel. I feel like you guys will watch that. If we hit a game-winning kick against LSU, you guys are watching it, right? Like, that's happening. Give me Ryan Fitzgerald, special teams MVP. Dude, I'm kind of excited about that now that I just typed it. Yeah, Jordan Travis, Kalen DeLoach, Ryan Fitzgerald. I feel like taking Jordan Travis is kind of cheating when you're talking MVPs, but I mean, who was the MVP of the Florida game? Who was the MVP? That's just what it is, man. That's who you got to go with. So, okay, what else do we have? Do we have any other questions? Kind of rapid fire. No super chats. Nobody wanted to support the show today, but that's fine. Again, I'm not worried about Pitt here. Okay, this is a good one. Peter Warrick or Jamar Chase? Okay, here's the thing. I hate the Peter Warrick comparisons by fans, and Jamar Chase is phenomenal. Great talent. Peter Warrick is absolutely ridiculous, though. And when you ask fans about Peter Warrick or Percy Hartvin or Peter Warrick or this guy or Peter Warrick or Jamar Chase, fans of Florida State are going to say P-Dub and fans of the other team are going to say the other team. Like that's just what it ends up being. When you ask professionals, when you ask pros who played the game and who went to the league and who went to the NFL, they say Peter Warrick. Every time. Peter Warrick, you know that cliche, that phrase, this guy ran so that this guy could walk? That's it. That is Peter Warrick. P-Dub was that guy. And so I am not saying that P-Dub's the greatest player of all time or what, but he is the most electric player in college football history. The only person that I think you can really put on like that P-Dub level, and y'all can disagree, you could put more names in the comments if you want to disagree or whatever, but is Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush is the only person I think that like, okay, we'll have an argument. We'll talk Reggie Bush. I think even P-Dub would say that. I think P-Dub would say like, yeah, that guy's something. There are other ones. There are phenomenal college football players who have played down through the years. But P-Dub really, like, if not for the Sears thing, like, or Dillard's thing, like, he was Heisman Trophy level talent and would have won it. I think that gets forgotten about. I think P-Dub played in a time just before social media. And so we have some of his highlights, but man, it's grainy footage. It's old footage. It's not 1080p. I think that if Peter Warwick was playing now and you had social media and you had Sports Center going 17 times, it would be all people talk about. Same thing with Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush right before social media. It would be another level of hype. And again, you ask fans of the guy, I'm always going to say P-Dub because I'm a Florida State fan. I'm wearing Florida State stuff right now. I'm always going to say P-Dub. But if you ask guys that played, you ask guys that went to the league, you ask guys that went to the NFL, played in the league, went to the Hall of Fame, Chad Ochocinco, whoever you're asking, they all say Peter Warwick as well. And to me, that's the difference, right? When you ask a Messi or Ronaldo fan, who's better? Ronaldo fans say Ronaldo, Messi fans say Messi. The rest of the world says Messi. That's a very different comparison when you're talking about some of the greatest football players ever. But it's the same concept. Florida State fans say P-Dub. Florida fans say Percy. Everyone else says P-Dub. It's probably the easiest way to break that down. So, but I'm a homer, so I'm going to say P-Dub either way. Well, we got about 2 minutes left. What else you guys got? Who is a dark horse to win the ACC, SEC, and Big Ten? So dark horse to win the ACC, man, I don't know. I'd be shocked. I think it's so hard to pick a dark horse in the ACC because the top two teams are so far ahead of anybody else. Like, I think most of us would be shocked if it's not a rematch of Florida State Clemson. But you could see it. You could see Pitt sneaking in. You could see Louisville sneaking in. Whatever. But then wouldn't you be shocked though if it's Pitt and Clemson? You'd be shocked that Florida State's not there, but you'll even be even more shocked if they beat them, right? Same thing. If it's Louisville, Florida State, you might be shocked that Clemson's not there, but you're going to be like stunned that Florida State lost to Louisville. So I'd say that a dark horse there would be Pitt or Louisville. A dark horse for the SEC is, I guess Tennessee, but they won so many games last year that I don't even know if they're still a dark horse. LSU's maybe a dark horse to win it. But I think it's Georgia, But is LSU a dark horse? They're starting number 5 in the country. Like, that's not dark horse to me. Big Ten, again, I think it's Ohio State or Michigan. Like, I just don't really see another team competing there. Wisconsin's a fine pick. Penn State, I guess you could say Penn State, but again, they're top 10 in the country right now. So they're not. To me, that's not a dark horse if you're that high up in the rankings. I think college football is at a point right now where if you're not starting the year in the top 15, you're not winning the playoff. Like, it's just not happening. Or you're not winning your conference, sorry. Especially in those big 3 conferences, Big Ten, SEC, ACC. You have very well-defined teams that are going to win and do ridiculous things. I'm not sold on North Carolina, though. Somebody asked bigger chance of upset between Miami and Miami tonight or Duke and Clemson. I'd say probably Duke has a better chance of beating Clemson than Miami of Ohio does of beating Miami. I think the Canes win tonight. I'd love to be wrong on that, but I do think Miami wins tonight. So unlikely to see anything else but that happen. Hey, if you watch this on replay, do me a favor, support the show with Venmo, PayPal down there, or do a super thanks. If you are in Orlando this weekend, make sure that you hit me up. Come join our Discord. Come join our Patreon. We got lots of inside info over there, but we are going to be hanging out heavy in Orlando. I got my daughter's dance stuff tomorrow morning. I am leaving at 10:30 from Tampa to go to Orlando and hang out with you guys all weekend. So hit me up if you are in town. Listen, I love you guys. I appreciate you for joining me. No script, no outline today. I had 3 things I want to talk about. We talked about all 3 of them. So congrats to us for staying on topic. Love you guys very much. Let's go beat LSU's ass. Go Noles.